Hello and welcome to today's edition of EduTalk right here on this channel. It's made possible by the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Education Journal. On EduTalk, we break down everything education to its simplest form for your understanding and my understanding by kind courtesy of our guests. And today, we are focusing on the National Students' Values Handbook. And it takes me back to my days in SHS, where we get to go for guidance and counseling. But most of the time, I must say that we are actually whipped to go for guidance and counseling. Little did we know that it was good for us. And I will tell you a story once we go along the line, what guidance and counseling did for me personally. My guest for today is Madam Gifty Sekyi. She's the Director, Guidance and Counseling at the Ghana Education Service, and I'm so delighted to have her join us in the studios today. You're welcome, Madam.
Thank you very much, Emefa.
Thank you so much for joining us here on EduTalk today. So we will be focusing a lot on the National Students' Values Handbook, but of course, we'll be delving into guidance and counseling as well. Let's talk a bit about the National Students' Values Handbook. Just take me into it and then we'll go for the break, and when we come back, we'll delve deeper.
Thank you very much. The National Values Handbook is the brainchild of the Ministry of Education in collaboration with the Ghana Education Service. As part of the curriculum that is being used now at the secondary school level, it is structured with a Ghanaian philosophy, Ghanaian cultural philosophy. That is the underpinning philosophy. And it is a contextualized curriculum where the Ghanaian values, norms, and culture is the central theme of it. Everything revolves around Ghanaian culture, though we are preparing our learners as global citizens with 21st century skills and 21st century character. We have contextualized it to make it a Ghanaian curriculum where our learners will live and be driven by a value-based Ghanaian contextualized curriculum.
Okay.
So after the development of the curriculum, it was trialed, and then coincidentally, guidance and counseling within the Ghana Education Service was also restructured. So there was the need to align it with the new standard-based curriculum. So during the new framework, it was realized that there is the need to create the necessary sensitization and awareness about what guidance and counseling stands for, and the need to also let learners take a pivotal part in the entire development, and the implementation. So there was the need to come out with this values thing, and then a handbook that will guide the learners in school and out of school, so that they will be able to live a value-driven life.
Okay.
And then their personal development and national development would equally align with the Ghanaian values. So the management of Ghana Education Service thought it wise to bring the young ones together so that they would be guided to develop a material at their level, so that they would also teach themselves.
Hold on that. It's a very interesting bit on that, but let me bring all my audience together at this point, since we just started, so that they will spread the word. They need to call everybody to gather around so we can get talking. Madam Gifty Sekyi, Director, Guidance and Counseling, Ghana Education Service, is my guest on EduTalk today. And already, the National Students' Values Handbook has started a very good conversation you don't want to miss. Please, let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll get talking. You're welcome back. This is EduTalk, and we are right on this channel, made possible by the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Education Journal. Maybe, hopefully, the Guidance and Counseling at the Ghana Education Service will also join us very soon to be able to spread the word a bit more when it comes to EduTalk. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of the show, Madam Sekyi. So you were telling me about the involvement of the young ones themselves
Yeah.
in the development of this book.
Yeah.
Let's delve into it.
We brought students from the various categories of schools that we have in the country, category A, B, and C, across the country. And then we also selected them by the regions, the 16 regions across the country. So we brought them together, and then they came with their chaperones to guide them. And we had the experts also there. But then because we wanted it to be a youth-driven document, they were guided, and then we wanted to have their feel of the values based on the curriculum. And they did a good work. They were spearheaded by the Ghana National Union of Student NUCs. And then we had Lead for Ghana, which is also a youth organization, Anna Ghana, and then we have the SRCs from the secondary schools. They were all represented, and then the units, guidance and counseling units, and then the management of Ghana Education Service were equally there to guide them. So at the end of the meeting, the various meetings that they had, they came out with this document, the national values for Ghanaian youth.
And this is a handbook they are all ready to live by.
Yes, it's a handbook that was, they did not just do the handbook, they did the first draft, and then it was trialed in 98 schools, selected out, we selected 98 schools out of convenience, and then purposefully selected them, and then we did a baseline with them, and then took them through the entire document, and at the end of the day, we did the end line so that we could know the gaps and fill them. Afterwards, experts were brought on board to look at the gaps and fill them accordingly for us. What has been agreed on is that it is now mandatory for every learner within our school space to be part of this program. And then already we had a program for the teachers that is called Professional Learning Community. There is a time set aside within a week for teachers to meet so that they can upgrade themselves and look at methodology and other things that will help them to put up their best. So concurrently, the time that is meant for teachers to meet and then look at what works very well for them in teaching and learning, learners also meet in their classrooms. We have learner guides who are being trained. Some have trained, those who are part of the pilot, they've trained their learner guides already, and they are still training them. We take them through some number of days of training to equip them, and then they are able to also run it concurrently. As teachers are in their PLC, learners are also in their values learning community. Wow. So when you go to our schools across the nation, if the school is even late in the initial implementation, at least the sensitization has been done. And then because we want this to be a home with the school community, the sensitization is done in such a way that the entire school community must understand it so that they can give the needed support to our learners. And then the learner guides only facilitate, they are the moderators, and the content is such that it's a friendly, interactive, play-based activity where learners are flexible to add on. And they are also free to contextualize it within their respective cultural area. Though at the end of the day, the main values that we want to imbibe is there, but then its implementation, it's also contextualized based on the location in which one finds him or herself.
Well, this is coming at a very good time. It's a timely conversation we are having today, at a time where there are talk about discipline in our schools, especially with what we saw in the Central Region recently. Let's talk about how this particular handbook is expected to positively influence our children, especially at the SHS level. What are we expected to see differently if we start implementing?
Very good. Thank you very much. I think this handbook is supposed to let the students think through, internalize. You see, most often it's like we push it on them. But this one, they think through, adapt it, internalize it, and adapt it as a lifestyle. learners of the same age, peers of assaults, are deliberating on something. So if for nothing at all, let's take it, for example, we are looking at honesty as a value. And then we've all gone through the lesson and we are writing an exams and somebody is cheating. Where does the value that we've learned come in over here? If all the entire class of, let's say, averagely of 40, we have 35 or 38 saying no, you would get one person saying, all saying yes. You get one person saying no. Because we learned through our value lesson that this act is not an honest act. And it's an affront to the values that we are learning. Oh. So we want the learners to owe the values, internalize them, play with them, and let it be part of them. We don't want it to be like what you and I went through that do this. Sometimes we're even coerced or forced to go and see the counselor. Yes. But then it is a relaxed way of behavior modification where you are not forced, but then you learn through daily activities. That is what is it. And it is not only at the secondary school. We are also coming up to make sure that the value system starts with the basic school so that they would inculcate the values at the developmental appropriate age. And as they grow, they build upon it. Yeah.
Well, how I wish you were the guidance and counseling teacher at my school, but we'll get into it shortly. But I would like to find out, you've talked about some key pillars in terms of the values that you're looking at. It's unfortunate we don't have a copy of the handbook. I would have been so happy.
I can make some soft copies available for you.
I'm sure that we'll roll them on the screen, portions of it, so you can see. I want us to get into, off the top of your head, some of the key values. You've talked about honesty, for instance. I know there's more. Which other ones did they come up with that they are hoping?
So we have resourcefulness, adaptability, integrity, honesty to combat misinformation, and a lot about. At the moment, you see, it's a progressive something, and then we are making sure that whatever value that is being considered works very well with our learners. So at the moment, we are working with 10 of the values that we have. If I can refer to whatever that I have over here. So we have responsible citizenship, self-directed learning, building confidence, equity, adaptability, diversity, resourcefulness, leadership, integrity, and discipline. So the first volume that has been developed covers these key values.
Yeah. Interesting. And they are supposed to hold themselves accountable.
And they're structured in such a way that at the end of the day, they are reflective questions for the learners too. And they are journal, what you learned individually, what you learned, because I may learn something peculiar to me and you would, so you would have to journal it. And you don't journal it for just journaling purposes. At the end of the day, it is part of the transcript system. Though non-scoring, not examinable, but it's a requirement. So if you want to fool, you can fool. But then your values would also betray you at the end of the day.
I see. Yeah. So have we started using this handbook, you would say?
Oh, yeah. I think about 3 weeks ago, we did a nationwide training to sensitize the various counselors and then school management. And they've started. Last Friday, I was at Keta Secondary School. They have done with their sensitization. They've engaged their stakeholders. And this week, they are rolling out. And I believe others have also started already. Yeah.
Okay. But how involved are parents in this? Because some of us, this is new to us.
Very good. So with the initial sensitization, we thought it wise that parents should be part of it because it should be something that we are living. It should be a holistic something. It's not only at school that values are needed. It must even start from home. And if parents are conscious and intentional about this, we wouldn't be struggling as we are doing now. So parents at the PTA meetings and other engagements, we have time that we will get in touch with them to also give them a briefing of the values so that at home they can also be intentional and mindful about it to ensure that together we nurture our learners.
Okay. Well, when we return from the break, you'll tell us a bit more about what you expect from the parents. At least you've said a bit, but we know we have guidance and counseling teachers on campus. We have the teachers themselves, and since you've talked about the learners. So when we return from the break, you tell us a bit more about this book and what is expected of you as a parent as you watch us. We're right back after this break. You're welcome back. This is EduTalk. Many thanks for your company. And today we are focusing on the National Students Values Handbook. And of course, we'll get to delve into guidance and counseling as well, because we know we have school-based guidance and counselors all across the country. And I was telling you about my story, and I'll tell you a bit about it, Madam Remansu. So whilst in school, I was a science student. I went there as a science student, but everybody knew that I wasn't cut out for science. What I'm doing now is what everybody knows, reading and all that I'm doing. So it took a counselor to actually tell me that what you're doing, you are not in the right place, even though your parents want you to. So that's how a counselor shaped who I've become today. So it's very great. Yeah, I'm very happy that you're here. So the Students' Values Handbook, you were telling us about what you expect from parents and teachers and counselors based in the various schools. What exactly will be our role in all this?
So let me start with the teachers. With the teachers, because the underpinning philosophy of this curriculum is about values, we'd want them to integrate values into whatever that they are teaching, whether mathematics, physics, chemistry, English language, social studies, or what. They would have to let it be part of it. So at the school level, we've made it mandatory that every week, whatever value that is being considered should be posted on the school platform, and then to remind teachers that their examples, their questions, their body language and everything should be focused on that particular value that is being considered for the week. Okay. And then we are also sensitizing them to be intentional, because if we are preaching values, then the teachers themselves must equally lead a value-driven life, which is also something that we are also looking at. And then we are also making sure that the school environment becomes a value-friendly environment. We don't want any school-based violence or hostile environment that would make the value exercise something else. We want. So we have started with the sensitization earlier on with our engagement with the heads and the regional directors who have direct responsibility of the schools. And to the parents, I think there is a saying that charity begins at home. It's unfortunate, and I'm sorry to say that most parents are blaming us as teachers for no reason. It is only at the boarding house that they spend most of the time with us. But throughout their development, they've been with the parents. And it is our responsibility as parents to deliberately and intentionally imbibe these values into our children, because the Ghanaian culture subscribes to values. And we should be deliberate. You don't just leave them. Just imagine the number of learners that we have in a class being managed by a teacher or two. You see, even if the teacher will do his or her best, it behoves on the parent to set up and then passionately let the learners know that this is what is, the awards or their children know that this is what is expected of you. You don't just leave them like that. So when it comes to values, I am very passionate, and anytime that I have opportunity to meet parents, I tell them that please, it is our responsibility. Do not let us leave it to the teachers. They are doing their part. It is not easy, but then they are managing. So let us also be intentional and do our part.
Okay. How inclusive is this handbook, though? And then also, I'm sure the issue about culturally acceptable norms. Really, tell us a bit.
This material is very inclusive to the extent that we have a Braille version of it for the impaired, visually impaired learners. And then for those with other learning disabilities, we are also seeing how best it can equally be used for them at the secondary school level. I believe when we get to the basic school level, it will be very a play-based handbook where even those with hearing impairment can look at the visuals and be able to learn something out of the pictures that they will see in the books. It is very inclusive. And then with areas where we have cultural stereotypes and what have you, because the material is quite, you can adjust it to suit your terrain so that it doesn't, it's quite flexible.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite flexible. So you have to adapt it to suit the cultural preferences and biases within a certain area.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, you talked about the implementation rollout plan. You've talked about the training that is already going on and all that. So let's delve into the roadmap in terms of the national rollout. Where are we? What's going to happen? What should we look out for?
Right. I think we've come very far.
Okay.
It started somewhere last year with the trialing in the 98 schools. After the trialing, we did the baseline, the end line, and then we did a comparison. The gaps were filled, and it was finally validated by the management of Ghana Education Service for full implementation. We've started with the initial orientations for the school-based counselors, and then at the school level, the new guidance and counseling framework works in a team. So we have others who provide other guidance-related service. They may not be professional counselors, but then the guidance components, we bring others on board. So they are all part of the training so that they can equally support with the implementation. Okay. So at the various schools, they've been given the what do you call it, the mandate to start the operationalization of the manual, which is serious per my checks. And there is a dashboard which they report periodically for us to know what is going on. Per my checks, I see that every school is serious now, but then there is the need, you know, the typical Ghanaian, there is a need for monitoring. Yes. So we would also start, the single track schools are on vacation now. So we have the double tracks who are still in school. We see how best we can quickly start with the monitoring to see the challenges that this first monitoring will be seeing the challenges and see how best they can we can help them to solve it, and then it continues. We hope that by the next 6 months or year we can have a very interesting story which we can come here and tell Ghanaians that the values handbook is really going on very well.
Okay, I'm happy you've talked about monitoring though. How are we hoping to sustain this very laudable?
Yeah, so as part of the roadmap, there is an element of sustainability. There is an element that has been considered, which it has come to stay.
Good.
And then we would have to do all that we can within our space to ensure that values learning community comes to stay. And it is not only this first volume, that we are also thinking about other evolving values that needs to be considered. And then when we consider that one too, we will bring the selected youth on board to contextualize it and develop it accordingly. So it will not end.
Okay.
Yeah.
In wrapping up though, I know you've given a message to parents, you've given a message to teachers and the guidance and counselors as well on campuses, but you are yet to actually give a direct message to the learners themselves, even though they put this together. And as we roll out, I would want you to directly speak to these learners on what you expect.
Good. So as a slogan for the values learning community, we say VLC. And they would respond, we teach ourselves.
We teach ourselves.
VLC, we learn ourselves. Okay. And then VLC, we do it all. Oh. So as the slogan says, we have to teach ourselves at the language that we understand, and we need to learn it. After learning it, we have to do it all. We have to let the values be part of our lifestyle. Our decisions should be values driven, and let the Ghanaian entire environment see that these students are people who have been taught and they are living the value-driven life.
Well,
that is what I want to tell my learners.
Thank you so much, Madam Gifty Sekyi. Well, there should be another edition where we get to just talk about guidance and counseling. There's a lot to cover in that area. But for now, we'll leave you to roll out the National Students' Values Handbook. Once we are done, we'll get to sit again. Thank you so much for your time. She's the Director, Guidance and Counseling at the Ghana Education Service, Mrs. Gifty Sekyi, my guest for today on EduTalk. Well, another edition comes your way, same time, right here on this channel. Many thanks to the Ministry of Education and the Teacher Education Journal for making this possible. Another edition on this channel. Thank you so much. Have a good day.